Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. You gotta excuse me. Damn voice, man. I hit sick. I was out here shouting at the practice today for my son's soccer team. I actually coach it. So my voice, I left that shit on the soccer field. Anyway, like and subscribe to the channel. Become a member. And leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings. Look, man. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Some are saying this is the good big man versus the good little man. But then there are others who are saying, you know what? Maybe this isn't such a good big man against a good little man. Maybe it's going to end up being a very good little man against a big man who's too little. And I had to say, hold your horses. What do you mean by that? And then we had to think about Chris Eubank Jr., even though I got him winning. You got to think of what he's going to put his body through or what he's been putting his body through to get down to 160 pounds. Now, for those of you who don't know, man, Chris Eubank Jr. is about 6 feet tall, 5'11", say and a half. So let's just say 6 feet tall, right? 35 years old and cutting weight down to somewhere for a moment in time he would never, ever come close to. And this is what has a lot of people saying that they are worried about Chris Eubank Jr. in this fight and not so much Conor Benn. And they feel that Conor Benn is the one that's going to go on to a thrilling and spectacular points victory decision or knock out Chris Eubank Jr. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's bad blood that's been building up the fight. But when I listen to these fans, I'm like, if you're going to say that, I'm listening, I'm hearing you, but let's dig a little deeper. Let me tell you something. When you start digging deeper, you start to understand Chris Eubank Sr.'s position to not support the fight. One is, it seems like he's a guy who wants to make sure that he always has an image of a clean-cut, respectable gentleman. So when his son comes out here and cracks an egg in the face of Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Sr. doesn't approve of that. Okay. But also, him not approving of the event, because he came out here and said his son is going to have to melt and dehydrate himself 20 pounds from a healthy weight just so he can make the 160-pound limit. So if we go with what Chris Eubank Sr. is saying, I mean that Chris Eubank Jr. should be fighting at light heavyweight, 180, 175, cruiserweight actually, but maybe 175. Because for him to say he's dehydrating himself from where he should be fighting 180, 20 pounds, north of 160, puts him at 180. I wonder what Chris Eubank Sr. knows that we don't know. One thing we know is he's his dad, Eubank Jr.'s dad, so he's concerned about him. And we also know that he was a fighter. As a fighter, he knows the dangers of cutting weight and the dangers of getting in the ring after a very hard weight cut and battling someone who's coming in very healthy, up in weight, and is looking to inflict as much damage as possible on you. It is possible that Ben, who's packing on muscle that that Ben is quicker than normal, more powerful than normal, and better conditioned than normal because he doesn't have to dehydrate. And then Eubank Jr. could be slower than normal, lack the power that he normally shows, and could find himself being very, very vulnerable. Because then he has, I think, a 10-pound rehydration clause, so he can't go over 170. When you look at that, that's concerning, and it's an eye opener because Eubank Jr. Look, super middleweight, cool middleweight. He says he can do it, but he's not being given the opportunity to rehydrate to where he needs to be. You just think about it. Anyone out here who's cut weight, in one day, I can cut 10 pounds. In one day. Tomorrow at this time, 24-hour period, I can cut 10 pounds, no problem. Some people can cut more than that. It's water, man. You dehydrate yourself. And to know that you can't fully rehydrate yourself the day of a fight, that's a problem. But at the same time, Conor Benn with his future, if he's going to sit here now and had a couple fights at 154, he's going to jump up at 160, I think he's going to bubble back down to 147. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Conor Benn's 28, Eubank Jr.'s 35. Eubank Jr.'s had 37 fights, Conor Benn's had 23. All the experiences with Eubank Jr. But the playing field is leveled out when you really sit here and think about the weight issue. You look at the reach. This is something else people don't talk about. Eubank Jr. has a 4 to 5 inch reach advantage over Conor Benn. That is going to matter, people. So when you look at it, everything can't be the Eubank Jr. is a good big man who's cutting weight to a point where he shouldn't be against a good small man who's coming up and going to be stronger. That's a pro for Ben, a con for Eubank Jr. But the experience goes to Eubank Jr. The reach goes to Eubank Jr. Most other things go to Eubank Jr. Like, I'm not making that up, you know what I'm saying? I just listen to the stories. And I'm going to talk from personal experience. I've talked about this before. I was getting ready for a fight. Saturday, so Wednesday I was sparring. And I noticed like Thursday my head was hurting a little bit. And the coach was like, that's just from where so-and-so just hit you upside your head, right? And I was like, nah. It was a different type of pain that I had. I felt like my brain was bouncing around in my skull. It was very, very painful and alarming and concerning. Anyway, I talked to a friend of mine who his job was in a career field called life support. So when you in his career field, he had to do a lot of survival training. So he knew about dehydration. And those days I was running like maybe like 10 miles a day, like 5 miles in the morning, 5 miles in the evening. And I'd be running in that hot sun. So what happened is I became dehydrated. And he told me, he was like, yo, get a gallon of water and just drink it. And he's like, drink. You got to rehydrate yourself. And I tried that. Then I had to go to the doctor to get an IV. Anyway, Friday came, and like when I would stand up, it was horrible. I felt like my brain was banging against my skull. Excruciating pain. Anyway, Saturday we were riding up to the boxing match We were in a van, and while we were driving, the van was going through like a bumpy road, and man, I thought I was gonna die. So we got up there, and the coach was like, "How you feel?" I'm like, "Man, my damn head hurt." He like, "You want to fight?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "All right, come on, let's go down here. Y'all come and get you do your weigh-ins and stuff like that." And when I went to stand up, it felt like my head exploded, man. That shit was horrible. And I was like, "God damn it." He was like, "Look, if you're in that much pain, you shouldn't fight." And I ended up not fighting. And I was pissed because the bozo who fought in the ring, the two bozos, I would have clipped both of them. Anyway, I say all that to say this. People don't tend to get hurt when they move up in weight. But it's when you're cutting weight and you're dehydrated that you're more likely to get hurt. And when you look at Eubank Jr., the fact that he's dehydrating in camp, still dehydrating this week just to make weight for the fight this weekend. I'm just telling you, if he gets caught with something real clean, I just think the danger is there for Eubank Jr. I really do. Even though I think he wins, when I really sit back here and try to strip away the emotion, I gotta say that weight cut could be a problem. Makes me think about Jerron Boots Ennis cutting to 147, 10-pound rehydration because of IBF rules, and how he looked against Evanescence and Chikadzian. He won, but we found that he was maybe getting hit a little more than what he should have, and he could say that's how he likes to fight. But we saw when he fought Stan Eubank, who's a much bigger threat, when Boots didn't have to worry about the rehydration. Boots looked like a totally different fighter in the ring. Makes me wonder if Eubank Jr. is going to be half of himself because of the contracted weight. I don't know. We just got to wait and see. I know a lot of people are still talking about Eubank Jr. and the Liam Smith fight, and how Eubank Jr. got violently knocked out. Look, he got hit with a clean shot, then he got hit with an elbow. That's the end of the discussion. He got hit with an elbow. And Liam Smith knew what he was doing when he threw that shot. But he already had him going. He didn't have to hit him with an elbow. But he had stalled himself, you know what I'm saying, down again. When you're fighting in these lower weights, just something you can't do. You know what I'm saying? Chris Eubank Jr. is a 168-pound fighter. You go down to 160, bad things happen. Just what he did for Liam Smith. He going back down to 160 for Conor, Benn, bad things can happen. I just have a feeling, man, although there's a lot of familial tension and the rivalry that's been brewing now for the last few years between the Junior and Conor Benn, I just feel that there's going to be even more drama at the conclusion of that fight. And the drama is going to be with who ends up victorious. Because if Eubank Jr. wins, they're going to say basically that Conor Benn was too small. If Conor Benn wins, they're going to say Eubank Jr. was weight drained and dehydrated. Yeah, they both make a lot of money, but it's a lose-lose for both of them. You know what I'm saying? No one will come out and receive full credit for the victory because of all the little nuances surrounding the contracts. So it is what it is, man. But anyway, if Chris can bring his A game, which I know he's going to, I just think Conor Benn's in over his head. I know Conor Benn's ferocious. He's passionate. And he's going to look to come in there from from the first bell, first second of the round, and try to tear into Eubank Jr. I just think Eubank Jr. will do a good job holding his nerve, remaining composed, and sticking that jab on Conor Benn and using that 5-inch reach advantage. And I think when Eubank Jr. starts to open up with the right hand, I think Conor Benn becomes reluctant to let his hands go, and I think Eubank Jr. goes on to eventually knock him out. But if it doesn't go that way because of the weight cut and the rehydration clause, then things can get really bad for Eubank Jr., especially if the fatigue sets in and Conor Benn is there going 100 miles an hour. It could get bad. Anyway, keep cool. Shout out to the veteran 7 continents. I'm going to go make me some tea with honey because I need my voice for Saturday for these kids, man, that I'm coaching. In the breeze.